Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to have the opportunity to speak with you today in commemoration of International Women's Day. I truly regret that I couldn't be there with you in person because I really wanted to, but unfortunately, this session clashes exactly with AMCHAM T&T's annual Women's Leadership Conference in which I am participating. Nonetheless, in keeping, I guess, with today's topic, I'm still very pleased that I'm able to join you in this way. I want to begin by thanking the Embassy of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Washington, D.C., and the Women's Roundtable Action Platform-Trinidad and Tobago for inviting me to speak today and give your keynote address, and of course, for everything that they do to empower women and girls for the future. I feel very inspired by the theme, Embrace Equity Together, Celebrate Women's Achievement, because I believe this is what it takes to break biases and barriers to ensure women's full and equal participation in all aspects of society. Gender equity is the business of everyone, so we must come together on this vital issue, and we must take the time to celebrate our achievements so that we can demonstrate to others what is possible. I hope the lessons we take from today's sessions will see us staying united to embrace equity against the backdrop of this highly transformative world. Today, we have a whole new ecosystem of technologies being developed simultaneously that are rapidly transforming our world. Think of the congruence of quantum computing, artificial intelligence, big data, blockchain, robotics, and space exploration all evolving together, opening up greater potential for innovation. Imagine how these new technologies are still going to further transform our future. At the same time, imagine who stands to benefit and who may be left behind. Now ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? Technology is indeed growing at a rapid rate, and it is only projected to grow more so exponentially. This means technology is going to be a critical success factor in all types of businesses, whether it be in productivity tools, data analytics, digital marketing, or understanding and enhancing the customer experience. What this in turn means is that there are going to be more jobs created that will require technology-related skills. In fact, it is predicted that there won't be enough candidates graduating with technology-related skills and qualifications than there are jobs being ready to take them in. We already know that women are underrepresented in the workforce. But what is even more alarming is that when you look at the statistics of women in technology-related fields in the workforce, that number is even lower. So there's no denying that the digital divide exists, and it hurts women and girls the most, especially in education and employment opportunities. The digital divide has seen women having less access to internet than men, and they are less likely to develop the skills to reap the benefits of digital tools and technologies. Also, in low and middle income countries, women are 20% less likely to own a smartphone than men. This is not acceptable. We know this is intrinsically linked to the existing socioeconomic gaps and inequalities across the board. So what are we doing to correct it? Well, closing the digital gap requires us to increase education about the benefits and use of technology and the internet to empower more women and girls. We must also ensure that access to digital services isn't limited to geography and finances, particularly in rural areas which are typically stricken by high levels of poverty. And we must not ignore the racial, cultural, and language barriers that view technology and the wider online world as male preserves, where women should be restricted. That is why, if we want technology to transform people's lives, we cannot design digital tools that leave out over half of the world's population. We must address the inherent biases and design flaws that exist in the development of digital tools, which seem to ignore the needs of women and girls. We can't solve these problems by developing products and guidance on identifying and measuring the gender-digital divide, and by making digital interventions more gender responsive. This way, women's needs, priorities, and values are more effectively reflected in the digital environment through the development of more women-centric tools and content. We can't fix this problem if we are invested in more education for girls, particularly in STEM. Ensuring equitable access to transformative technologies begins with creating more room for women in the development of science and technology, especially in ICT. In the workplace, we need to look at the barriers that exist that prevent more female participation. For example, we speak of digital transformation, but what do the job descriptions for these roles look like? Are they all requiring tech-related skills? What about the transformative part? What about change management, empathy, and the skills required to understand the business needs, the customer needs, the employees' needs? We need to seriously relook at whether there are inherent biases in some of these things that may actually be preventing more females from accessing these types of jobs. And let's not forget the lessons of the pandemic and how technology was used to enable remote and flexible working, providing opportunities for many women to overcome obstacles that are often cited as disincentives to continue working, for example, after starting a family. These are all things employers should intentionally consider and are within their control to encourage greater female participation in the workplace. I want to speak now about violence with women and girls. This is a global issue, but it exists not just in the physical space, but also in the digital and online spaces with wide-ranging economic, political, and social implications. Despite the advances in transformative technologies, concerns around data safety and the threat of online harassment present major barriers to women's access to digital services. Quite often, women are targeted online for violent and sexualized threats, stalking, and impersonation that has serious and sometimes criminal offline impact. Combating this requires building cross-sector relationships with cybersecurity professionals, members of civil society, policymakers, and concerned citizens to raise awareness about internet safety. The aim is to improve the rule of law and accountability around cybercrimes, provide direct services to victims and survivors, and to take preventative actions. If we are serious about women's inclusion in the digital world, we need to provide the basics and fundamentals. Safety must be a priority. Finally, we must make room to elevate diverse voices in the workforce and in the digital world in particular to ensure equitable access to transformative technologies for females. Addressing any of these problems and finding solutions must consider the lived experiences of women and girls from a variety of backgrounds. This includes those who are ethnic minorities or who come from indigenous backgrounds. These groups generally have less independence, less free time, and less job stability. That's why we need more companies to prioritize improving female representation as a business necessity instead of labeling it as a social problem. There are companies that have structured programs for diversity, equity, and inclusion. They see DEI as a long-term investment that requires continuous work that needs to be developed, maintained, and cultivated. We need more companies to invest more in recruiting and retaining diverse talent so we can benefit from the innovation that diversity brings. This is especially important in the field of technology. The tech world is still a man's world, but we can change this. I want young girls and women to know they hold the power to level the playing field. I want them to know that they must capitalize on their inherent strengths. We need to be vocal champions of making change happen and exemplars in our organizations to show younger women what progress is possible. So ladies, let them see you and let them feel your impact. Let's be role models for the next generation so that their lives will be more positively transformed through technology. That's why we must ensure that technology promotes respect for human dignity and gender equality. We must also make sure that technology protects diversity and inclusiveness in the workplace. Finally, technology can only be transformative once it continues to promote social justice by upholding fairness and equity for all. At AMCHAM T&T, we are committed to creating a much fairer and more equitable world for both women and men. And we want to make sure that there is greater buy-in to solve the problems that leave so many women and girls left behind from the winds of change and progress. I know this is a commitment that is shared by all of you. So I want to thank, once again, the Embassy of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Washington, D.C., and the Women's Roundtable Action Platform, Trinidad and Tobago, for the opportunity to speak to you at this very important event. I hope today's sessions inspire many of you to be the change makers and champions for a gender equal world that is free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, so that our differences can be valued and celebrated. Remember, together we can forge women's equality, but we can only achieve this when we collectively embrace equity. I thank you very much.